Hi there. Welcome to Pride Pages podcast. We are here live with Julia Whited and Don Azevedo. And did I say your name right, Don?
Excuse me, that was perfect.
Oh, okay. We've been at Boise Entrepreneur Week, and it was so exciting to learn so much. And so I had a couple people from the Entrepreneur Week event to have on the podcast to talk a bit about the week and the things they learned. So, Julia, if you want to speak, can you share with us what you do for business?
Yeah, I am actually between opportunities at the moment, following a recent layoff, but my background is in video editing, content marketing. And then I'm also currently an MBA student at Boise State. So that's a lot of what I'm doing for business right now is school.
Awesome. And what's your plan to do for school? Do you have a game plan or you just have an idea of where you're going?
Yeah, I'd love to, kind of pivot more from creating content to content strategy, but I'm really just kind of soaking it all up. I feel like it changes every day with what class I'm in, what I'm doing. I'm like, oh, I could do this forever. I could do this forever. So,
Oh, yeah.
who knows if I stick to the content marketing anymore.
I think business can be that way though too, because it kind of takes on its own flavor and then you have to change avenues on what steps you're going to take.
Yes, for sure.
How about you, Don? What do you do for business?
Well, just a quick comment on her strategy. When she said, "What do I want to do forever?" That's probably too far out in the future. Jobs, are kind of a finite thing, and opportunities come and go, and things that don't even exist yet, you might be interested in later. So it's just for a while.
Good point.
Oh, absolutely.
So what I do is a few things. I volunteer with Learn Idaho. It's a lifelong education aging resource network for seniors. There's all kinds of free events. Nobody should have to go through retirement and or the caregiving experience alone. There's plenty of resources out there. Also, am connected with PMI WIC, so that's Project Management Institute, Western Idaho chapter. We're in the business of promoting the profession of project management. We're also a nonprofit. So I've been there representing project management this week at Boise Entrepreneur Week because everyone has projects, whether they call them that or not. That's how things get done. So it's a valuable skill to have in your toolkit. And then when I'm not doing all of that stuff, what I do for a living, I'm a financial advisor with New York Life. I help individuals, families, small businesses with protecting what they have and growing their wealth so they can do what they really want to do someday.
Of course, absolutely. That's awesome. So with Boise Entrepreneur Week, we learned so much. There was so many classes. And so I know it's hard to narrow it down. What session at Boise Entrepreneur Week made the greatest impression on you, Julia?
I think, and I kind of surprised myself as I was thinking about this. Probably Google for Business, the SEO session. I was excited about it. It honestly exceeded my expectations. It's something I've wanted to learn about for a long time. And Michael Johnson, who ran that, was so good at explaining it for a beginner, which is what I was so afraid of. Am I going to go in? There's going to be all these acronyms I don't know. It's just going over my head. He really kind of took us into how do you start, assume you have, no knowledge. So it was a great landing place for anyone who wanted to learn about that.
I love that. I love that. And then how about you, Dawn? What made the greatest impression on you?
Well, there was a couple of them, but I'll narrow it down to one. I really liked the panel discussion from the CPG segment of food producers. So there's Killer Creamery, there's Teton Chips, and there's Earth Beverages, ERTH Beverages, and hearing about their stories, their struggle. I expected that being an entrepreneur, I know it's a roller coaster, big time, but they, reinforce that view of it. But you have to, really want to do what it is you're trying to do. And the most key thing was you have to know where you want to go in order to get there. It can't just be a broad shotgun approach. Narrow it down to exactly what it is you want to do, at least for a while, until you learn more, and really focus in on that.
Cool. For me, it was a tie between the SEO class and then when Jet Hansen spoke and gave us inspiration, but he also spoke about how much Boise is involved with technology, which was a big surprise for me. I had no idea. I mean, we know that Boise has Micron and HP, but I had no idea it was such a big development of technology. And just to find all the businesses that are here in Boise, like I had no idea Intuit was here that runs MailChimp and QuickBooks. I mean, so many of those things just blew my mind. So what did you learn during the week that you plan on implementing into your business? Julia.
Oh, hard question. I think a big thing that, I mean, it was touched on in SEO. Jet Hansen touched on it. I went to the 50 to the A showcase, and it was all touching on, like, if you're dedicated to Boise, to be vocal about that. Like, I mean, you said you're surprised that we're such a tech-centric city. And we all live here, and we were still like, oh my goodness, we didn't know.
Right.
And so, people here want to support Boise businesses, want the city to grow and evolve and retain talent. And so I think, that we as contributors, as business people, we need to be vocal about that as well so that people understand what the opportunities are here.
How about you, Don?
Well, I think I'm going to just keep dovetailing off of the presentation, narrowing my focus. I like to learn a lot of things. I'm very curious. I'm always, interested in learning new things. But from a business perspective, I think you have to narrow that down, not all the time, but, from segment to segment, being really specific about what it is, what my value proposition is, and how I can help people instead of broadly trying to capture everyone. I think if I narrow it, I don't like to use the word capture, but I will be able to, attract more clients because they'll know more specifically how I can help them rather than in general.
I think that's probably a challenge for almost everybody who went to this conference. So I like to think big. I like to learn new things. I like to explore. I highly doubt that it's, a siloed, just you thinking pattern. I think if you're at all interested in entrepreneurship,
yeah, I like to stay curious.
Yeah.
Yeah. I honestly felt like there was so much to learn and take in. It's like, I want to make sure I remember all of it so that I can use it in so many different ways. And that's how I personally felt. I did with the SEO class. As soon as I went home, I got on my computer and I made a few updates to my website that were like a quick, easy, that was the most instantaneous fix. But, there was so much that we could take in that we could implement into our business, I think. So, why is diversity in business important to you? Julia?
Yeah, I think that a lot of people who maybe don't think about diversity day to day, they're like, oh, I look for like diversity of, thought rather than demographic diversity. But that diversity of thought comes from finding people with unique backgrounds and talking with them and getting to know them. We don't, I mean, we are all unique people with unique thoughts, but we develop those as a result of our experiences. And so I think if you don't want to get, siloed, if you don't want to stagnate in your business, you need different, user perspectives. You need, user perspective especially, but also employee perspective, so that they can bring those things up. They're going to consider use cases that you'd never even pondered before. And so, yeah, I think that, saying like, I just want thought diversity, I think that oversimplifies it. Where does that thought diversity come from?
Yeah. How about you, Don?
Well, I always like to tie things back to nature. If you're out in nature, there is so much diversity. It's overwhelming. But there's a reason for that. If you have a single crop and you're a farmer, like the potato famine, they had one crop, and once that one crop collapsed, it was over. There was no backup plan. So you need an organization that is, some people are focused on the day to day, but you need some people also looking for threats. You also need other people looking for opportunities. What's over the horizon? How can we, uh, you know, you can't do it with one kind of group of people. You need a diverse gender, diverse ethnicity, diverse ages, diverse experiences. Maybe some experiences that you think don't even apply to your business could be, a new set of eyes looking at the same old problem and going, "Oh, this seems obvious to me. We're all in the middle of it and didn't even consider it."
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And so I didn't give you guys a heads up on this question. Would you recommend Boise Entrepreneur Week to anyone out there for next year? I mean, today's our last day, but for next year.
I can go first this time. So I put a poll question out there yesterday,
Oh,
interestingly
you did?
enough.
Oh, that's the poll question. Awesome.
And so, if you are interested in what's going on in Boise, because there is a lot going on in Boise. You mentioned Jet's presentation. There is so much of an incubator here of startups, and it's past that. We have companies here that have been startups that are now like mid-level, world-known companies, like Intuit bought In Time Tech, and so there are T-Sheets.
Yeah.
So there's this massive growth going on here. But if you're just curious and want to know, what's over the horizon, or if you have a business and you want to partner up with other business owners, there's all kinds of people to network with. It's just refreshing every now and then. Get out of the day-to-day, everything you're doing to make your business go, and then go get recharged, re-inspired, re-energized by, wow, I had no idea.
Yeah, I think, we're similar in that maybe we're, innovating within an organization that's more of that entrepreneurship than the entrepreneurship, as they call it. But I think it is still so much a showcase of, what does Boise have to offer? How can you innovate even within those confines? And just getting fresh perspectives. I think, a lot of us get kind of blinded within our own organizations, within our own personal objectives. I've worked remotely for the past 3 years, so I'm, very in my own mind a lot. And so getting out of that and thinking differently, hearing from, engineers as a creative, like I needed that perspective. And so, yeah, highly recommend the event.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. For anybody out there in business, whether you own your own business or you're part of a company, I would recommend this event. Absolutely. So I didn't get a chance to talk to Julia ahead of time, but Dawn, I wanted to ask you about a hobby you do that you might be something that you might do in the future. Is that something we can get you to share and discuss?
Sure, I would be glad to. So that's kind of one of the reasons I gravitated towards the food side of things. I've had a hobby for, I don't know, 40 years, 30 years, somewhere in there, of making salsa, growing all my own ingredients, making salsa, hot sauce, cowboy candy, all those kinds of things. But going from a hobby to a business is a whole nother different set of skills and infrastructure. So, it's still a possibility out there, but I guess I need a bigger project plan that's more baby steps instead of going from zero to grocery store shelf. There's a lot of steps in between, uh, you know, Saturday markets, finding a commercial kitchen. I understand all the regulatory and safety aspects of it. How do you get raw ingredients to last all year? Because growing canning season's like 2 or 3 months. So those challenges, but potatoes are the same kind of thing. I asked that specific question of how do you keep a steady supply of potatoes all year long? Well, he's partnered up with potato people in Idaho, so he can say all our potatoes are sourced from Idaho. So it's doable, but it takes a lot of work.
And you actually have a certification in canning?
I do. So whenever you're, working with food, you want to make sure that it's safe. So I went to Oregon State University. They have a 3-day canning certification class. And you've probably heard of Reesers. They're local to where Corvallis is. And probably 2/3 of the class was people from there. But, I completely understand the science and safety of canning. So, because we don't want anybody, getting botulism or something like that. It's not a good thing. It's not a good advertising.
No. Well, I know you showed me pictures, and you look like you could supply several Saturday markets. And I've got to admit, I'm hoping you might bring some peach salsa. And
how long are you going to be there today?
I will be there for 2 sessions at 10 and 11, and then my items will be there. But if I hear peach salsa, I'll come back.
Okay. All right.
Awesome. So thank you so much for listening to Pride Pages podcast. We hope you enjoyed this episode with Julia Whited and Dawn Azevedo. Did I say your last name right too, Julia?
Yes.
Yeah, you're good to go. You're on it.
Okay. Thank you. Boise Entrepreneur Week was an exciting week. I hope any of you that are listening, if you were at Boise Entrepreneur Week or you're thinking about going next year, I would highly recommend it for anybody. It's super inspirational and exciting. Does anybody have any last words they want to tag off with?
If you really want to know what's going on in Boise, you want to be optimistic about our future, go to Boise Entrepreneur Week. You will not be disappointed.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. How about you, Julia? Any last words?
I think just that we still have a day left. If you want to go, if you want to connect with people, it's free. Women in Tech are having a great networking event today. That's 4:30. It was wonderful last year. So yeah, if you feel like you missed out, you haven't, still time, you can go today.
Awesome. Well, fantastic. Thank you so much. Please like or subscribe depending on which social medium you're on. And thank you so much. We'll see you next week.
Thank you for having us.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you.